Welcome back to the third day of the 2021 Northwest Horn Symposium. I'd like to welcome our next panelist, David Cooper, the principal horn of the Chicago Symphony and one of my former colleagues from the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. We are very excited to have him, and also we will be viewing his featured artist recital at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time after this. So stick around. At 5, we're going to go ahead and just do a couple closing ceremonies, me and the rest of the SSO horns. So without further ado, David and Morgan and James, you guys all ready? Let's do it. All right. If you guys want to start your video, you guys can take it away.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Ooh,
Cool.
Hi.
How's it going?
testing.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Let me just make sure. Can you say something?
Check.
I, for some reason, cannot turn my volume down on this. It's coming through a little
I'll have to
hot
whisper.
on my end. Let me just unplug my headphones.
And for our masterclass participants, make sure you have original sound turned on. Do you guys know where that is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Y'all have done this before.
Can you guys hear me again?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, this is better on my end. Cool. Awesome. So, congratulations on winning the competition.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So can you walk us through a little bit of your preparation and just kind of how let's start with Morgan. And how did you feel like your preparation went up competition? What was, just walk us through.
Yeah, well, it was actually one of my college audition tapes. So I had been recording pieces through many months. And then I recorded the Gordon Jacob piece for college.
Oh man, I love that concerto. That's one of the nice concertos for horn and strings that I know, and it's also one of the co-commissions for Dennis Brain. Right, Dennis Brain had a few commissions: the Britain Horn Serenade for tenor, horn, and strings, and then this Jacob concerto. Which movement did you do? The first?
Yeah.
Yeah, such great writing. I
Hmm.
love it. And then you played the just excerpts, I think. Was that James?
I played Messiaen, Appel Interstellar.
Oh man, I learned
Such a
that
cool
last
piece.
year, believe it or not. Like that was
Yeah,
my
for the
big
first time.
project.
Cool.
Yeah, so I was doing some master classes on Instagram, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just
Saw some
offering
of those.
them to whoever wanted to play for me. And
Yeah.
this student brought in Appel Interstellar, and I was like, I know this piece, I've heard it, but I've never played it. And then another thing inspired me to do it. I watched uh, Alessio Allegrini had this video of him with this Iron Man mask on, and he's playing the calls, and then he this is Iron Man and all the breaks, and I was like, that is awesome. I'm totally gonna do that. So yeah, I
Awesome.
ended up learning it and memorizing it, and then I went out to Utah, and it was written for the canyons in Utah, right? Like
Did you
bird
play it in the
calls.
canyons?
I guess Messiaen wrote it as a bicentennial kind of
Yeah.
anniversary piece for the United States,
Yeah.
and so he features a lot of bird calls and a lot of kind of it's a from a part. It's called the Grand Canyons, right? It's like 12
Mm-hmm.
movement suite,
Mm-hmm.
and I was out there in Utah camping, and I brought my horn. And I took it out, and it was just starting to get dark. And I played this call, and I was like, it was Moab, Utah. And if you've
Cool.
ever been out there, you've got just wide open sky, and you've got all these canyons and the mountains, and I just felt like this is where I should be playing this piece with the bird
Yeah.
calls and the crazy ba 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 ba, the calls.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, man.
So
Cool.
did the whole thing make more sense after you played it
For
there?
some reason it did. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It just felt like, oh, I get it. That calling into nothing. It's like you keep calling, but there's no response, right?
Mm.
And I think that's what's so cool about that,
Cool.
Appel Interstellar. So, are we going to be doing some a little bit of watching of these videos, or are we going to do a little playing?
So it is 1 o'clock in the morning.
No,
over
I
here in
know
Norway.
that. I am asking you
So
not to
my-
play, but you have a video to present, correct?
Yeah, I have excerpts from the excerpt competition also,
Oh,
and
cool.
The Messiaen or the Mozart from the solo competition.
Oh,
So,
fantastic.
but Morgan,
Excellent.
are you playing?
Yeah, I'm gonna be playing the last movement of Strauss 1.
Excellent. I got my copy right here.
Nice.
So, maybe we can start
Maybe,
with Strauss 1.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I will mute
And then we
myself.
can get into a little bit of the excerpts and the Mozart.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Hey, bravo. Excellent job, Morgan. I mean, fantastic playing. You have an amazing command of the instrument, amazing musicality. It's just all there. So, for me, um, my biggest thing that I would focus on with your playing might be the breathing, believe it or not. I think you can go farther on one breath than you do.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you play, I notice you take these shallow breaths and you do it often. And I would rather have you take a deeper breath and work on inhaling more fully into your lungs. Like I always think of four corners. I think of the corners down by my hips and the corners up by my shoulder, right? So when I play, I'm always at the edge of my chair so I can really get, as much air into my lower abdomen as I can. And then I try to expand my chest and, I keep it lifted. And then I just take in the air and I try not to collapse that sternum. Um, okay, so most of this is really good. I could use a bit more contrast. I know it's Zoom, but some of these things, especially at the end, right? Let's start on. Do you know what mit freiem Vortrag means?
Sorry, the host muted me. What was it?
Do you know what mit freiem Vortrag means? It's at the Maestoso Fortissimo.
I think it's like with force or free and force.
Free delivery, right?
Okay.
Yeah, Vortrag is delivery and freiem is free, right? So with this, you can take a little bit more time. I always, slow down a little bit and then kind of bring it back. So let me just demonstrate what I want. I'm going to turn on original sound. Right? And that's kind of like the fake out because it's like, hey, this is the end. Not really, right? How did you choose your tempo for the ending? For the coda?
Kind of just played however fast I could go.
Okay, so that's one way to make your decision. The other way might be how resonant is your hall, right? So if you're in a really echoey, like amazing hall like Carnegie Hall and you're playing Strauss Concerto, you might want to take it a little bit slower than if you're playing somewhere like Symphony Hall. Because the fact that there's no acoustic in Symphony Hall, so everything is a little bit drier. We can get away with playing a little bit faster. But where there's a really reverberant acoustic, you have that ring at the end of notes, and so it sounds all like that, right? As opposed to so. I would also do a little bit of contrast whenever there's something repeated. We have this right? We can do one loud, one soft, or one soft and one loud, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I always think And then, of course, this happens twice, right? Right. So we've got a lot of repeated material. Usually these things come in pairs of twos. So when there's a second, statement of that theme, I'd love for you to, maybe just play a tiny bit louder, or you could give us a crescendo. Do something different. Be creative, right?
Mhm.
You can play the horn. So let's be a great musician on top of that.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So what I would love to hear is let's start with the opening again. And I want to hear you breathe in a little bit longer spots, right? So breathe here. Breathe here. And maybe sneak a little breath. And you could breathe. Dun. I don't know. Maybe what do you think? You could either breathe after one of those C's, or
Yeah, I was thinking to breathe after the first C.
yeah, that might be better. You already
Okay.
tanked up here at the F. So for me, I usually just take one breath on it, and that's just my personal preference. Right? So if you can do it with one breath, that's like ideal. You
Okay.
know, I think when I go back and I listen to the Dennis Brain recording of this, right? Someone mentioned Dennis Brain, hey to Dan Mallory, or Dan Malloy, excuse me. And Dennis Brain never breathes. That's like one of the coolest part about his recordings. Like you go back and you're like, how the heck did he go so far in one breath? And another guy who's like that is Radovan, and another guy would be like Eric Rust. So those are three of my favorite horn players right there. Let's do this again, and I want to challenge you. Let's make the one breath challenge.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
If you need a breath, I will accept a breath after that, first C.
Okay.
But I think you can, experiment with just, cutting that dotted quarter tied to the eighth. I would experiment with cutting that a little bit shorter. Cut it 1 or 2/8 notes shorter so you can really get that air in. And then when you
Okay.
breathe, make it like an athletic event, right? It's like, you want to like be dynamic with how we breathe, like really get that air in quick, okay?
Okay.
Did you do that all in one breath?
Yeah.
I meant you can take a breath in the middle there. Okay, so like now that you can do it without any breaths, let's
Sure.
do it with one breath in the middle. And when you start, right, take 2 measures. 1, 2, 2, 2, and breathe in those. So instead of just taking a quick breath in tempo, you've got how many measures? You've got 7.5 measures to breathe. So you really take that time. Like, I'd say 2 measures is probably adequate to fill up your lungs. Okay, so give me a 1, 2, 2, 2, and then the last eighth of your breath, just kind of accent it maybe a little bit in the in the tempo, right?
Okay. Oh shoot.
No worries. Awesome. Okay, so there are a myriad of places you can breathe. I would choose to breathe after that dotted or the quarter tied to the eighth, because it's the longest note one of the
Oh,
longest
okay.
notes we have. So that would be F, kind of in the middle of that phrase. It's in
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the eighth bar of that.
Okay.
But you can breathe wherever you want to. That sounds fantastic. I'm really happy with that. Okay, so now we have this phrase, and then it goes like a step higher, right, to kind of emphasize. So when it goes a step higher, let's play that a little bit louder, and then let's come back and make a really beautiful calming color. Like, I love to see how smooth I can make this in here at the pianissimo. Like, I want to see if you can really get those notes to like string together, like that gooey slur, like it's like an almost like taffy or something in your valves. Let's see if you can do that kind of smoothness. And we achieve that with a slower, kind of like putting our valves down slower and more gentle, and then releasing them a tiny bit more slow and gently. So let's do
Okay.
that half tempo, working on the connection between the notes.
Okay. Do you want me to start at the F?
No, at the pianissimo, please.
Okay. And half tempo?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right, let me stop you there. So when we have slurs and we put the valve down, hard, it almost sounds like you're tonguing it, right? Like there's a specific effect where I use a hard valve to make it sound like I'm legato tonguing.
Okay.
And in this, we want to make it sound as connected as possible. So watch my valves. See how they're like kind of slowly moving down into the note? And then when it goes fast, I'll show you the next part.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, that's it. Absolutely awesome. When you came down from the C, B flat, A flat, F sharp, F, that was so smooth. And it takes a little bit of practice, but then when we get it fast, it actually sounds a lot more smooth. Listen. Sorry, that was Jeff Nelson calling me. My bad. All right. And then, we can even take it to the next phrase. Right? So it's more like a vocal legato. Now try it up to tempo. And, obviously do the valves a little quicker, but don't slam them down.
Okay.
Much better. Yeah, so for me, that sounds much more connected. Like each note, when a note ends, the next note starts at the same volume. And it's almost like we're, leading from one note to the next. And it's not one note jumps out and, there's all these, it's not horizontal or vertical now, it's horizontal. So that's good. Let's start from the part where it says solo. Bum 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 ba ba dee da.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay.
Excellent. And that's another spot where we could choose our breaths a little bit better. I would say after that dotted half note tied to the dotted quarter would be a good spot to breathe. And I've seen how far you can play on one breath. So this is one where you can just do, one singular breath in the middle of this, and I think you can make it. Excellent. I want to hear this part in the middle we skipped over. Ba 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 dee da ba ba.
Okay.
Excellent. So when I practiced this, I did subdivisions underneath, right? And what I love about subdivisions is number one, it keeps the rhythm really honest, right? Just especially when we have the da 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 dee da 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 dee 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 that ba 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 dee 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 da 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 dee dee da 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 dee da 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 dee 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 dee. Sometimes I tend to compress that last eighth. Da dee da ba ba da dee da, and it almost sounds like a 16th, and it's really just an eighth in 6/8. Ba 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 ba. And then the last part of it is when I do subdivisions, when I have a long note, it gives me some context of am I going forward or am I coming back? Right? It's either going to or coming away. It's never stationary. So, so a couple times I heard you play long notes, and they're beautiful, but it's not going anywhere, right? And so, listen to when I play it with underlying triplets. Oh, sorry. And just try that, like with the subdivisions, and I want you to do it at that tempo.
Okay.
Good. Now, when you play that, you're mostly focused on the rhythm, I think, right? So let's do it again and let's think phrasing. Where are we going to? And that's a question I'd like you to answer now. Where would you like to phrase to? And where are our phrases? So
So in the beginning, well, throughout the whole thing, I'd like to phrase to the highest note of each phrase.
how come?
It just seems like a good climax point.
Sure about that. So what is a climax?
Just like where the phrase is going to.
Okay. Another way to phrase that would be, where is the most tension? Right? So Western music is all about tension and release. We want to build the most amount of tension and then release it, right? So out of these, where would we say the most tension would be?
The dotted halves.
Okay, listen to me play.
Okay.
Where do you hear the loudest point?
I think I heard it in the eighth notes.
Yeah, the last A in the
Yeah.
last bar is where I'm going to. So I'm making one long phrase out of this whole passage, right? And then we keep going. To that D, right? That concert D. Okay, so we're both times we're going to that A. And if you think of a longer phrase, it'll it'll engage the listener more as opposed to when I talk in short chunks. You want to pay attention more when I speak in long, complete sentences and I have a really nice point, right? Exactly. So it's like sentence, 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 or paragraph. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna go to the A in the under the Energico. It'll be the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth line of that page, of page 5. It'll be bar 1, page 5, and then we're gonna go to line number 6, bar number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's an A in the middle of that diminuendo. A dotted half tied to it. Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Go ahead. Okay, that is awesome. I'm gonna add one more thing, and then I'm gonna let you go. So when we play this, we want to invoke the opening, right? But it's kind of like a throwback, right? So I know it says pianissimo, but let's talk about a dramatic pianissimo, right? So I would play it a little bit louder. So two, one, two. And I would crescendo on the dotted half before the end, right? So the second bar to the second phrase. Bum, bum, as opposed to the last note, which is what you were doing. Try that one more time, and let's see if we can play it just like a soloistic pianissimo there. Okay?
Okay. That whole section?
No, start from the pianissimo. Ba, ba, ba,
Okay.
da, 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 dum.
Okay.
Good. Think about where we're going, you know, as far as direction, and I want you to go to the penultimate bar of that. So, right, and then come away.
Okay. Yeah.
So just take the last 4/4, and then we'll wrap it up. Excellent. Yay. Bravo, Morgan. That's awesome. I'm really happy with your progress and with your musicianship now. This is, for me, like more mature. And I think that's what you want. We always want to be musicians first, horn players second. So this is fantastic. And you've got a bright future ahead of you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you again, hopefully sharing a stage someday.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, James, you are up. Hey, Danielle.
Hi.
How's it going?
Thank you, Morgan, and welcome to James. So I'm going to be sharing the video
Ooh,
today for you, James. So
perfect.
what would you like to start with? We have a Mozart, and then we have several excerpts. Your
Well, maybe I can ask David if you have a preference. I have Mozart 4 and then 5 excerpts.
Would you mind telling me the excerpts?
Sure. There's Beethoven 6, Brahms 1, Tilleulenspiegel, Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony, and the Short Call.
I mean, they're all great. All excerpts I really like. Obviously, the Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony is like one of my all-time favorite pieces.
It's the it's the first movement. First movement. Yeah. So
it's not the slow movement with the trombone and
not the slow movement. No.
Okay, no thanks. Okay, so let's do Tilt and Beethoven 6.
Okay.
I will cue it up.
Thank you, Danielle.
Okay. All right. So bravo. Obviously that's fantastic.
Thanks.
For me, Till has to be a little bit more syncopated on those quarters. Ba, ba, right? A little more accented.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I just from hearing you, the middle C sounds a little flat. Yum, bum, bum. So I would check
Okay.
your middle C.
Okay.
Your low register is fantastic. Your high register is fantastic. I would maybe think about a more of a contrast from the first to the second. Again, I didn't hear it as well as I would have liked to. Just the Zoom volume was a little bit low for me.
Mhm.
So when I think of this, I think of it in two until we get to the. Let me just pull up this excerpt so I don't misstep. I think it's the fourth bar. With the quarter accents.
Right, yeah.
Right? So the middle C isn't quite as loud as the last two notes.
Yeah, okay.
You hear it, I'm in two until in one.
Right, okay.
It's, I mean, this is the way you played is so close. I mean, I would want to hear more because I wouldn't be able to discredit you from an audition based on the way you played.
Okay,
You know, and
thanks.
that's, I think when audition committees hear somebody play, they're like, okay, is it in tune? Is it in time? Is it convincing in the style? And yeah, and if it's one of those, if it's not one of those things, then it raises question marks, and we want to hear more things. Do we still have more question marks? And if so, it's a no. If not, okay, that was just a random occurrence. Then let's hear more.
Right, okay, yeah.
So that's pretty fantastic. Do you want to play? Let's do another excerpt.
Yeah, maybe the Beethoven 6.
Mm-hmm.
To our wonderful DJ.
Okay, this one's really tough. I think this is the hardest excerpt in the book. Like when I have to prepare like an excerpt list that's this long, the ones that always give me the most trouble are the Beethovens. And usually they're the first ones I discredit. I'm like, man, it's just Beethoven, right? Like it's, it doesn't look too hard on the page. It's, all notes pretty much within the staff. It's not too fast, right? And then when I listen to it, it's so telling. I mean, what I heard were your quarter notes weren't in time.
They were not in time.
Yeah, that fifth that fourth, or that fifth, excuse me, the pitch of the G is sharp, right? So your fifth isn't in tune.
Yeah.
And how long did you hold that high, that G?
I thought I held it long enough, but maybe the orchestra in my head was rushing.
No, it was too long. It was.
Oh, okay.
It was like 6, and then wait, and then I had to wait a little bit before it came in.
Okay.
Daniel,
Okay.
could we hear that one more time? And I'm just gonna keep my mic on. And what key are we in? What tonality are we in?
F major, concert F.
But the first chord, it's a G. What are we playing in that G7, or concert C7, right?
Yeah, the first measure, just the first measure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the 7th and the 5th.
Okay, so what do we have to do with the 7th?
You're testing my knowledge here.
So these are the things that I really want to know. When I hear a player, I'm like, do they know what part of the chord they are?
All right.
So the 7th needs to really come down.
Yeah.
And then the D, right? The D for me is really sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go into the key of F major, C, E, G, right? So the E's have to be yum bum bum bum, because it's
Right.
the
third
of the chord.
Mm.
Bum, bum, dum, bum, 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 da, 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 da. And I want all those da da dee da 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 da.
Mm.
Yeah, and then so this is one that I would, if I had to play this right now for an audition, and there were 5 excerpts, that would be the one that I spent the most time with, just making sure that all of my quarters are exactly square, all of my pitches are exactly in tune.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's why I picked Beethoven 6. I think it's one of the hardest ones in the book, personally.
To practice that, do you just slow it way down and subdivide like you were the?
I would do bum 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 beam beam beam, and I would do that along with concert F. So the first time I play it through, I would do it without any time, just so I can stop on each chord and hear it with the drone. And then after I do that, then I would make sure I play it really painfully slow with subdivisions. And I always think of those like, it's like 2 3 2 3 2 3 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 2 3 2 3 4 2 3 5 2 3 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 2 3. So I think that's the trick of this one, is always thinking 2 3 2 3 until it's not 1 2 3 1 2 3 1. Let me just demonstrate how I would. Grant, I haven't played this in a little while, so disclaimer. So it's just a little bit more even on all those.
Yeah.
And that for me was, you know, an excerpt that I didn't get for a long time.
Mm.
So, okay, let's hear another one.
Maybe we can round out the odds and do Wagner,
Sure.
the fifth one on the list. Thank you, Danielle.
Excellent. Nice high C. So this, I always think of that Roland Berger recording of the long call. Have you heard that?
Oof. Oh yeah.
Okay. So do you know the story behind it?
No?
So apparently he recorded it once and he went back to the booth to listen, and all the horn section played a prank on him. And somebody had recorded it and made it sound, kind of, terrible. And so they played that version back for him, and he was like, scheiße, and he like went running out, just like inconsolable, went running out of the booth, right? And no one could find him. And like they were like, oh man, like we're on the clock. Like we gotta, pay for this recording time. Where's our horn player? And no one could find him. And finally, like after an hour, he turned up in a pub and he was just sitting there, just like drinking away his sorrows. He'd had about 3 beers, and they're like, Roland, come back. Listen, there was a joke we played on you. We're so sorry. Like, you sound amazing. We recorded a fake version of it to, mess with you and to kind of throw you off and just have a little fun. And he goes, and so he goes back and he records it, right? And he's, had a couple pints of beer, and he just plays the piss out of it, excuse me, the heck out of it. And what was crazy is like, that was that one after, not playing for like an hour, he comes back and he just nails it first take. And that's the one.
Wow.
So,
wow. That's awesome.
What I love about that recording is his timing, right? And his ability to take time. So this is just solo horn until the clarinet comes in. And if you know where it is in the opera, this is where, he's whittling down the reed, tries it on his reed, and it sounds, it's like they do it on the oboe, kind of like, really like terrible, and it sounds really funny. They make a squawking sound. The recording to Jill Jock is the Schulte recording with Vienna Philharmonic, and that'll be Siegfried. It's the long call. You can find it on the IHS excerpts page under Wagner Siegfried long call. So it's the Schulte Vienna Roland Berger recording. And I would honestly just recommend going to that IHS because it's a really quick way to find it. But it's in Forest Murmurs. So this is where he he's scraping off the reed and it doesn't, and then he picks up his horn, he plays that same call, and then, the dragon's waking up. And then all of a sudden the dragon wakes up, right? So I always take a little bit of time And then we've got the clarinet here, in which I will use now to empty my water because my horn's been sitting cold for a minute.
Ya, da, 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 dee, ya, dee.
Yeah, exactly. Now. Right? So we can start that a little bit slower, bum, bum, ba-dun, dun, dun, and a little bit softer to make more of a dramatic effect when we get to that crescendo. So that's maybe what I would recommend.
Okay.
Excellent. Cool. Do we have time for one more? How are we doing on time, Danielle?
Yeah, we've got time for one more.
Excellent.
Another excerpt, or do we have time for Mozart? Probably not time for Mozart. Would you like to hear?
We could do some Mozart. Maybe we just won't play the whole thing.
Yeah, maybe the exposition of the Mozart.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's all it is anyway, so.
Excellent. Bravo. Right off the bat, I heard your thirds are high. Your concert G's. Right? So again, talking about what tonality we're in. E flat major and G is the third, right?
Yeah.
So we have to bring those down. So that's going to be the first thing I'm listening to when I hear a candidate. Do they know what key they're in? And if they do know what key they're, I mean, obviously you can play the horn, you can get all the high notes. That's the technique stuff is all there. So beyond that, what I'm listening to is like, hey, like, do you know what key you're in? And also, is your timing exact? So can you name 2 places where you lost time?
I think I have a tendency to lose them in the rests, like quick rests. So
Which
measure
rest?
40, 46, like
Is
a.
that, what is, could you sing that? I'm sorry, I don't have the music in front of me.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's a. I think in that.
No.
No?
So Where you're losing time is at da da digga 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 dun dun digga 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 dun. And then another spot. So those are the spots where I feel the time slowing down. And then at the end is another spot through those whole notes.
Okay.
Okay, so dum ba da da dum. So thinking, the 16th under that is the motor behind it, and it felt a little bit like it was just kind of just relaxing to the end of the exposition, whereas we wanted to da dee hum bum 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 ba dee da dee ba da dee, right? So we're going to that very end of that phrase. And then we get to that middle section, body, 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 and now it can relax a little bit, right? So exposition, I think we want to kind of keep it, a little bit energized, a little bit, like bubbles in your champagne, or for me, Coca-Cola. All right, so that would be my one suggestion. And then just knowing kind of where you're planning your phrases a little bit.
Yeah.
So I heard bum it just sounds a little bit like you're landing on the front of that note, and the rest of those notes you're kind of throwing away.
Yeah. Right.
And you can keep going, right? So now we're thinking like longer phrases through the rests, and we're also thinking like, this big plan, like it's now part of a chapter as opposed to just a couple random paragraphs.
Right. Okay.
Excellent. And I love the fact that you're tapering those the ends of your phrases. Those are really beautiful. Yeah, good playing. Really nice playing. I'm sure we could go back and forth on little things, but I think your style is overall really, really good too. You play the horn. It's great to hear you, my friend.
Thank you.
Excellent. Hey, fantastic working with you. I would love to
spend
you
more
time, and I wish we could, have like a lesson, like a formal lesson, but this is we might be at the end of our session. Were we supposed to go a little bit later?
Yes, we have a little bit of extra time. Yeah. But thank you, James. Congratulations and great job. Thanks for staying up so late.
Thank you, James.
Thank you,
we do
David.
have a couple of questions in the
Q&A.
Q&A. Bye, James.
Bye.
We have a couple questions in the Q&A. Can you see that?
I do, absolutely.
You like to?
Let me see. Q&A. I'm having a hard time finding the questions.
That's fine. I can read them out loud.
Yes, please.
So the first question.
Oh, I see the Q&A. I see.
There you go.
Okay, I was like looking in the chat box. All right. Hi, Dr. Cooper. I'm certainly no doctor, but thank you, Kathy. I'm just happy horn player. I'm having trouble with my high range because it sounds extremely pinchy compared to my low range. Are there any tips or exercises you recommend to help with this problem? Well, for me, I would start off as a low horn player, believe it or not. At Curtis, I used to get put on the fourth horn parts, and I used to think like, I'm not a good high horn player. I just can't play high. And so I just started playing up in the high register. I was getting ready for a principal horn audition in Victoria, British Columbia. And I remember thinking, man, these are really high excerpts. And then I was also doing a excerpt or audition for St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. And I just remember thinking, like, if I want to get good at the high register, I need to practice in the high register. And so I just started doing simple exercises. I believe there's a few in the Singer book. And then I just started practicing those excerpts for the high horn book. And for me, having that sound in my ear really helped. Like, just what do I want it to sound like? Especially like on like Pavan or Ravel G or the Haydn horn signal. So having that tone in my ear really was helpful. And whistling, believe it or not, whistling helps if you can whistle. So if I was to whistle, so for me, that's how I would play up there. And keeping that kind of airstream. So that's the same airstream as whistling for me. And if I can think of like using a little bit more air on the high notes as opposed to like, oh geez, I hope it comes out, and then backing off of it, then my high register will be a little bit more easy and free sounding. But also, you know, when I whistle, I have a really tiny aperture. So thinking about whistling, I have a more focused aperture. So still fast air, right? Just a smaller opening for it to get out of. Okay, next question. Ryan Lee Peterson. When adjusting to the third or intonation tendencies of just intonation, is it better to use flat harmonics or lip down the third? Thank you for asking, Ryan. I understand what you're talking about. You're talking about like using the third valve. So in order to make the third for the Mozart triad, the E flat triad. And if I'm thinking like a low fingering, you know, that can certainly help. If I'm doing something faster, I might not want to. I might not want to use the third valve. I could, you know, but it's just about what's comfortable for me. Certainly on the Strauss, like the right, it's the third of the chord again, the D, right? Again, we're in E flat major. So knowing that we have that third valve slide, you know, and it's a little bit lower, that helps me a lot. Another instance where I would use a lower fingering for the harmonic series would be Beethoven 7. What key are we in? Anybody? Anyone from the floor? Ding dong. Aha, A major. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you. And A major is our E major, so that would be Lan. And so if we're playing our E major triad, right? So you heard on the 2 and 3, my G sharp is sharp, and that is the third of the E horn or A concert major triad. So there is a lower fingering. Right? So you can hear that the G sharp on second valve is going to be a little bit lower. Ah, it sounds in tune. So now we can do right? So now we've got that third in tune on that Beethoven 7 triad. And when it rings in a really nice hall, like Benaroya Hall in Seattle or Carnegie, you can really get that, you can hear that chord and it really resonates well. So I would just practice it slowly with a drone. First and foremost, our ears are our best tool. So whatever fingering you choose, doesn't matter if it's easier or lower, just listen to the drone, play it slowly with a drone, and that'll be your guide to, move forward. Excellent. Can you describe what your embouchure does to form the smaller aperture? I pucker. So Dale would talk about saying TU, right? TU, you have to purse, right? So it's just bringing the corners in. And you can see I'm really just, it's a smaller opening. And when I'm playing higher, my lips kind of come in. They're not pinching, right? But they're just together, closing on more like I'm saying M. But again, let's not think about how this works, right? I'm different than you. Everyone's built differently. Everyone has different teeth. Everyone has different size tongue, oral cavity. The best thing to do is do a little bit of experimentation and see what works best for you. See what sounds easier and sounds more beautiful. Use that as your guide. Okay. Jill Jacques. What helps you cope with the mental pressure of playing principal in a top tier orchestra? I love music. And I love making music with my colleagues. So every day that I get to go to work, I'm just grateful, right? I always keep that first and foremost. I love music and I love playing. So for me, I have to keep that first and foremost. And gratitude is an action word. So for me, that gratitude has work behind it. When I'm grateful for something, I really practice my music. I really look at like, hey, how can I be the best version of me for my colleagues? Because I'm so grateful to work with them. So that would be, showing up early, not rushed, not stressed, not frazzled. Dan Gingrich, he's like one of the most consistent, even keeled, most respected people in the Chicago Symphony. And he's always the first person in the locker room. And he lives probably 45 minutes to an hour by train away. So every day he always is there at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half before every service. And he's never been late to a Chicago Symphony service. Like never. It's just, maybe he has, but it's been so long that everyone's forgotten about it, and that's the kind of colleague that we want. And it just makes everybody around you feel comfortable. You're like, oh, you're never like, where's Dan? I hope Dan's always there. He's like the Rock of Gibraltar, he's always going to be there. Another thing that I can do is get enough sleep. Sleep is really crucial. If I'm less rested, then I'm not going to be in the best mood. I'm not going to be the clearest mentally. Another thing I can do is really proper nutrition, right? Proper nutrition. Like if I have eaten a lot of like sugar, I tend to be a little bit more hyper and then I crash. And if I've had too much caffeine, I'm definitely a little bit more wired and then I crash. So knowing your body, what makes your body work really well. For me, it's really important to have proper nutrition, because if I feel good, I eat, proteins and, not things that I'm going to burn off really quick, like, cookies and, the things that I want. Right. Another thing I do is I exercise. When I feel good after exercising, I play better. I don't think about, that stress when I'm physically exhausted. Yeah. And then I prepare. I'm prepared 3 weeks out for each service. Right. So that's kind of my rotation every 3 weeks. And then I add another one as that week goes by, and then I add another one, right? So it's just always, that 3-week out preparation, and I'm making sure that I'm in time, in tune, and have a good plan for all this, and I know where I fit within the ensemble. So if I know I'm really prepared, then I'm less nervous for when I go into work. And I'm also more flexible. I can really listen to what my colleagues are doing around me, and I don't have to worry about my part. I can listen and really adjust quickly. So that's kind of what I do. Let's see. We have time for one last question. Well, I mean, I can definitely speak quickly on this one. My favorite recording of Mahler 5. Man, there's so many really good ones. I obviously, I really love the Schulte recording. I think that's fantastic. I listened to the Berlin Philharmonic recording with Simon Rattle and the Claudio Abbado Lucerne version. Those are some really great recordings if you haven't heard those. Lucerne Festival Orchestra. Last one, I'll just ask, can you talk more about your breathing and how you visualize taking deep, full breaths? Yes, breathing for me starts below, like at my belt buckle, right? And when I think about breathing, I want to think about always dropping my stomach, right? And like that is where I create a vacuum, and I create a vacuum here, and then my lungs expand, and I'm dropping my jaw, and I'm dropping my tongue, so the most air can get through my throat. So I'll back up so you all can see me breathe. I'll do it from the side, take off my jacket here. This is in pink. This is aggressive salmon. Okay, so everyone sees my stomach expanding. My rib cage is expanding. I'll do it from this side. Right? And I generally want to keep this rib cage lifted so I don't have to lift it as much. Right? And you can hear that sound. Right? So that might be the best demonstration. So when we have, the sound, that low toe, you can just hear the sound. And I do that with my lips sealed to my mouthpiece. Right? So that would be more how I would breathe around the mouthpiece as opposed to smiling. So I hope that helps. It's been really a pleasure to be here. Thank you, John. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mark, and Jenna, and then James for playing, Morgan for playing. You all sound fantastic. And what a fantastic Horn Symposium this has been. I know it's been a tremendous amount of work for you all. So thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Thank you, David. We're so happy to have you. And we're gonna bring all the symphony horns that we have here back on. Thank you to everyone who played in all the master classes. It was amazing. And everyone who submitted for recitals. It's just been awesome. So thank you again, David.
Yes, let's all thank David so much. And don't forget, his recital is coming up. It's actually premiering at 5:45 in 2 parts on the YouTube channel. So we'll have a link here for both of those. So if you get lost, you can just come back here to the webinar.